I'm sitting with DeDe Soto of the Soto Law Group, and we wanted to just go over some general information on estate planning and so forth. So, DeDe, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Perfect, thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So I did a little homework, and very minimal homework, but you've been practicing law for more than 20 years.
I have.
In trust law, estate planning for 10 plus years?
About 15, yes.
15, okay, so I was off there. And an interesting fact is your father was from Cuba.
Yes.
That's pretty
absolutely.
rad. And so, you and I are both Irish, which is cool too.
Right, yes. Yeah. German, Irish, and Cuban.
Yeah.
So it just depends on, who you're talking to. No, I'm just kidding. But So my legal name is actually Romelia. So I go by DeDe, but I was named after my Cuban grandmother. So that's a little fun fact.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I actually pronounced it correctly too.
Right.
When I did my homework. Yeah. So, all right, so the first question I have is, what is estate planning?
That's a great question. I get asked it a lot. So estate planning is putting together all the legal documents to protect you and your family, not just against probate, but to leave a legacy instead of leaving a mess. I always like to say that we will do planning for those that choose to plan, and then we clean up the messes for those that fail to plan, and that's probate, litigation, conservatorships, and it's cost a whole lot more if you have to go through that process.
So I hear messy.
It's a little messy. It's very messy. And it can be prolonged. We had a probate matter that lasted 4.5 years.
Oof.
It was ugly. It was very, very ugly.
And I would assume most of the family members become not so cool to each other.
Exactly.
Right?
Not so cool. Like, they don't even talk to each other.
Yeah, that's not good.
No.
That's not what we want. Does it vary state by state? As far as the laws, or is it pretty much general?
You know what? If you're kind of west of the Mississippi with community property laws are pretty much similar, but there's some variations.
Okay.
So when you're talking about what is an estate, what is estate planning, and it's sort of the 5 essential documents. And that's a trust, a will, a durable power of attorney over your finances, healthcare directives, which includes the advanced healthcare directive, your healthcare power of attorney, and your HIPAA release of all your privacy. And then if you have minor children, naming guardianship is essential that you name guardians. And that's sort of universal. If, sort of east of the Mississippi, sometimes you want to go through probate. But here in California, you definitely do not want to put your family through probate.
No.
So it's really essential that you have it. A trust is a trust, and it can be spread out over, it's the same trust that if you have established it here in California, you can have property in New York and Montana. You can have property in your trust that you established here all over the United States. Right. But there are some nuances in various different states. So if you move to California, you definitely want to have your trust updated.
You do?
Yes.
Here in California.
Absolutely.
Now, would you update, let's say I went to ABC Law Group in a previous state and I moved to California. Would you amend the trust, or would you actually do a whole new trust?
Well, it depends. Usually it depends on what the changes are, how old the clients are, what the capacity is. Many times it's prudent just to do a restatement of the trust, so you don't change the name of the trust. It would still be the Smith Family Trust, but dated, 1990, 2000, whatever it was, but restated on that new date with all of the new laws. And there's always changes. Every year there's new changes that come out.
Okay.
So you want to make sure it's current.
Right. So for some of the younger demographic out there, when should you plan on talking to a DeDe?
Awesome. That's a great question. So I believe that if you are having a family, starting a family, you absolutely must name guardians.
Okay.
And so here in California, you can actually just name guardians. Let's say you're just starting out, you don't own any assets, you can name guardians. Short-term guardians and long-term guardians. Short-term, in case something happens, you're in a car accident or something, you don't want them to go to foster care. So you name who the family member is that you would want to come pick up your children. And then of course, long-term is, God forbid, if something were to happen to mom and dad, who's going to raise your kids?
Right.
And it's better for you to decide than having a judge decide, because they don't know your factual circumstances, life circumstances. It could be, your brother or your sister that you never even talked to, but on paper they look like they're the best ones.
Right. And I would assume you'd want to have a conversation with the people that you're selecting beforehand.
That's always nice, yes.
Not surprising.
Not a big surprise.
Not surprising.
Oh,
That would not be a good thing.
Yeah, not so good. So, and then probate is triggered by 183,400. So basically, if you have assets from 184,000 or more, you want to establish a trust.
Okay.
And you could have young children and you have life insurance. A minor cannot receive assets, so it automatically goes to probate. So let's say you have $1 million life insurance policy. You want to potentially start creating your trust,
right,
so that money can go inside your trust and protect your kids if you were not here.
Okay. And this is a big one, and I actually didn't have this written down, but it just sparked on my mind. So let's say I'm driving down the road and I get in a car accident.
Yes.
And I have my house and I have my retirement, which my wife and I have worked really, really hard for. If we don't have a trust in place and those assets of the house are not in a trust, am I in trouble? Is it a bad thing? Potentially. I mean, could they go after the assets?
Well,
and could they go after the assets if it's in a trust?
So are you asking the question if you were going to be sued? You were in a car accident and you're going to be sued. Well, there's various different types of trusts. And a revocable trust is a pass-through, so it doesn't protect you asset protection. You need to have irrevocable trusts if you're looking for asset protection. And once you get in an accident, it's kind of too late to transfer your assets into an irrevocable trust.
Oh, this is interesting.
So there's differences between revocable and irrevocable or irrevocable.
And irrevocable is tough in the lending world,
yes,
usually.
Right.
So I always thought that if you had a trust, your assets were more protected.
It's protected against probate,
but not against lawsuits.
No, because it's a pass-through entity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know we're getting...
Is there another way to protect it besides doing
there
irrevocable?
Is, and we're getting in a little more complications.
Okay, we'll leave that.
But you can do LLCs and various different asset protection to protect those assets. Absolutely.
You guys, this is where you need to reach out to DeDe Soto and the Soto Law Group if you have these questions, because I had no idea about this.
Right.
And now I just got nervous too, so I'm going to be reaching out to you very soon.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.